nerdography. What's going on, everybody? It's me, Mark, and I'm back again with another episode of Blerdkast. Thank you for joining me on this episode. On today's episode, I have a special guest. I have Ty, a fellow Black nerd, a fellow press outlet herself. Ty, how are you doing, Ty?
Pretty chill. I got me some Arizona tea and some water and some grapes to snack on because I'm a snacker. So I'm chilling right now.
We literally have the same thing for our podcasting setups. I got some hot tea, I have water, I have grapes because they're about to go bad. So I'm like, all right, let's get this going.
Gotta get those grapes out.
Yeah, you got to get the grapes out. So tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about your nerd story.
Yeah, I have I'm such a talker. I'm gonna try to make this succinct. I know it's like you're asking me, but I could go on for hours. But so who I am is I'm Black in Culture, but my nickname and pretty much my everyday name is Ty. And I make nerd and otaku culture content. With a specification and a special interest in sequential art. That's gonna be your manga, your comic books, and your webtoons, anything that's sequential art and animation. So that's anime, cartoons, and anything that falls under that category. And my nerd story is very similar to a lot of other people's because we all have very similar experiences in this space. I basically grew up with an extremely nerdy dad who absolutely adored anime. My mom, not so much, but she was definitely into fantasy. She won't admit it, but it's because of her that I'm so interested in like dark fantasy specifically. She had me watching Charmed and Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayers like since I was like 5. So I have a love for that. My dad was super into Naruto. That's like his favorite anime. So kind of grew up with those two, but I wasn't really into anime myself per se. It was just kind of another cartoon. That is until 2007 when my uncle unfortunately passed. And after he passed, my mother ended up getting all of his stuff. So my uncle, he was an incredible creative. He was really into photography, so he had a lot of like really interesting, cool, avant-garde kind of art in his own photography, and he was super into anime. And I got his laptop that had a whole bunch of Inuyasha stickers on it. And my mom, who was very kind, she was like, if you want to connect with your uncle, because I didn't know him that well, you should watch his favorite show. So she would record on the DVR Inuyasha episodes from Adult Swim. And I would basically, at first, I was staying up late. She was real nice. I had a nice mama. She let me stay up late and watch it. And then she's like, nah, girl, this show coming on at 1 a.m. You got to take your butt to bed. So then she would record it and I would just consume hours of Inuyasha. And then from there, as technology kind of progressed, I got into 80s and 90s anime through Anime Network because that's what I had access to. So I ended up watching things like Dirty Pair and Slayer and Shadow Skill, which that's like my first dive into anime. And then from there, it just kind of kept barreling. I got into anime. I'm hooked on the to manga. Got into manga. Got hooked on the Vocaloid. Got hooked on the Vocaloid, and then I was everywhere. And then comic books has always been something my grandfather loves. So I'm reading all his old comic books, and I kept getting older, just kept getting into it, and now I'm a garbage man. I collect all things. I collect all things nerdy. I'm into everything nerdy. I just have a genuine passion for nerd for the stories that are being told in the community. Genuinely, the community that's built around it. So that's like my story as a nerd in a nutshell. How I got here.
Okay. What are some of your favorite properties or IPs to geek out to?
I have some close to the heart ones. So like some close to the heart ones for me. Shadow Scale is definitely by far, I won't say it is my favorite anime, but it is the close to my heart anime. It's one that I've consistently seeked out. It's one that I talk about all the time. In that same vein, Wedding Peach is another like really popular, like close to my heart anime. And High School of the Dead, that's another like super close to my heart anime. As far as some other IPs, I've been in the Avatar for a long time, so I'm really happy about all this new Avatar fanfare that's happening. Love, like I mentioned, love dark fantasy, so Charmed. The way I can rewatch Charmed like 90 times, love me some Charmed. And I think some like a weird thing that I've really gotten into recently is Bluey. I am like so infatuated with Bluey. more than I thought I ever would. I just like it came on my TikTok feed one day and I'm like, what is this? And now I swear I have watched the first 2 seasons of Bluey like 4 times. I love that show. So all
I'm
my
not
Bluey fans out
familiar
there.
with Bluey. Bluey, the blue dog, the
The
little kid
kids show,
show.
yes. The kids
Oh,
show.
okay.
It's so good. It's so good.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What is it about that show in particular that you think makes you gravitate towards it so much?
Um, I really enjoy the depictions of different kinds of families, and the humanization it does of all the characters in the show. Um, I think that a lot of times people, as they're raising kids and as they're talking about children's media, they often think that children are somehow just incapable of understanding complex concepts, which I think is completely inaccurate. I think children are incredibly capable of being able to understand complex concepts. Maybe not at the level as someone in their 20s, 30s, and older, but they're really capable people. And I think it's so cool that Bluey takes this approach of being able to kind of explain these complex concepts to kids in a way that they'll understand, as well as making a very entertaining show and making something that adults can watch with their children and also feel something as well. And they tackle some everything from I believe there is an episode about divorce. There's an episode about child loss. There's an episode about death. There's an episode about just age in general, being barren. So many different episodes that cross a ton of different topics, and it explains everything in such a way where everyone not only can enjoy the show, but they can understand and connect with each of the characters. And I love a good storytelling moment, no matter what the medium is.
What are some of your other favorite shows that kind of line up with that type of aspect that you just described?
Some other favorite shows that kind of do the same thing. Ah, goodness. That's so crazy. I'm sorry. You put me on the spot here. There's so many shows in my head. I think another show that does that is probably Avatar. Avatar is another show. Avatar: The Last Airbender, I have to specify.
Right,
Avatar: The
right.
Last Airbender does a really good job of that, of humanizing characters, and letting you really connect with each character that's on screen. I think that's why Avatar has stood the test of time and has continued to be impactful no matter who's watching it, no matter how old that show gets. That first Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then as we move into Korra, Avatar has it just you connect with Aang and you understand where he's at. You connect with Zuko. I think he's like a big fan favorite. You connect with Zuko and his path to find himself and to find his true destiny. You feel for Iroh when he loses his son. I just and it's another children's show, crazily enough, but I think it's because if you're making good media, it doesn't matter who it's marketed to. You're making good media, and people are gonna really enjoy that.
I agree. I 100% agree. So since you brought up Avatar: The Last Airbender and the show just
Mm.
dropped a couple of weeks ago, I gotta ask your opinion about it because I'm pretty sure if you're a big fan like me, you binge watched it all and you're on your 100th viewing of it. So, what are your thoughts of Netflix's live action remake of The Last Airbender?
Sorry to disappoint. I actually have not watched it yet. And a big reason why is because I'm really apprehensive about it. And a lot of people who are very close to me have already kind of been giving me their thoughts on it. And I'm like, please stop talking to me about it. I don't want to go in. I don't want to be biased. That's the only thing. I have my own. I've been following it since pre-production, since Brian Konietzko and I can Mike. I always forget the other guy's last name, but since Brian and Mike basically first got we're like, hey, we're doing this with Netflix. This is what the vibe is. And then when they left, I've been following the whole story, and I just super apprehensive. Um, and because I already know I have the apprehension, and people have literally been gabbing me about it since the last episode dropped. I'm just like, I just need time to really rinse my head and allow myself to form my own opinions because I don't want to be super biased. I don't want to go in. It's the internet. I can say whatever I want, but I personally don't want to go in and be super biased and have an opinion that doesn't really do justice to the work that went into the show. Because despite of how everyone feels, there were artisans that made the costumes, people who did the film work, people who did the editing, the actors. Everyone still put in a lot of work, and I want to I want to give my honor to those people who put in a lot of work for the show.
Okay, I understand. I definitely understand and I respect that. I'm not going to get into it, but I will say by the end of it, you definitely will have something to say about it. That's all
Okay.
I'm gonna say. You will have a definite opinion about it. There's no hiding behind the rock with this
Okay, I'm excited about that. I like to have an opinion about things.
one. Okay, and that's as vaguely and generic as I can put it without giving my 2 cents on it. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave it at that. I don't like I like your approach. You want to have a as much of a non-biased approach towards it. So I'm gonna leave it alone. We're gonna move on to the next topic. All right. So let's talk about Black and Culture, your social media. Why did you create Black and Culture?
So I started Black and Culture under the moniker Black and Culture. It looked a lot different when I started back in 2018. And basically it was I was inspired at the time because this was a time when RDC World was really popping off. Black Girls Anime was popping. This is when Fantastic Frankies really was popping off. All the people who are kind of like what I would consider big names in the space, that are kind of like cemented themselves and are on to different things. I was watching them and consuming their content, and I was like, man, um, prior to them existing online, I didn't know that something like this could exist. I didn't know that I could see myself represented in such a way. And I've always wanted to have some kind of greater impact on my community. But when I first started Black and Culture, it was never with the intention of my face being shown. I did not want it to be me. I did not want to show my face on camera. And I actually started off as a blog called Black and Culture, where I featured much of the same shit I do now, industry professionals and other content creators, people who I like, they're doing dope stuff. I want to market them. I want to talk about them. And then after a while, like I was really struggling to keep that up because I wanted to do more, but I wasn't quite confident in putting my face out there. So basically I was like, well, let me try something else. So I've always been into photography. That's how I got into it. Always like taking pictures of people. And I decided to do a project called This is what Nerd looks like, because I believe at the time Quirktastic was doing something similar called This is what Geek looks like, and I was inspired by them. And I wanted to create a photo series talking about the nerds and the geeks in my area, highlighting them. So I did this whole photo campaign. The photos look really crappy. I'm not gonna hold you. Looking back now, those photos are ass. But I was really proud of it at the time. And the people around me, they gassed the hell out of me because it was not great. But they were like, "Oh, this is so good, girl. You really ate that." And I'm like, "No, I didn't. But okay, thank you. I appreciate you." But at the time, I was really proud of my work. And I was proud of just being able to, I genuinely, like, I literally put together a Google Doc and I was like, hey, I'm marketing this on social media. Meet up with me. Let me take pictures of you. And a lot of the people that I met up with, I'm still really close friends with today. And from there, they were like, you should really be doing more. You shouldn't just be, you should do more. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll do more. And my uncle is really popular in my local convention scene. And he was like, you know what, you've got this little Black and Culture thing. You should come out to the convention and you should, run a little press. He was the first person to encourage me to go out to the convention to cover it. So I went out to the convention and I did a couple interviews and met up with a lot of really cool voice actors and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I really enjoy this. I like this a lot. Um, so that was the kind of first step of to becoming Black and Culture as I am now. I started my first version of my podcast called the Good Culture Podcast, which is now defunct. Um, but I started it, and that was just a place for me to kind of put out my thoughts, put out my opinions in a podcast format. I didn't get a ton of likes, but I've never really been a likes chaser or anything. I just wanted to put my work out there. But the people who did listen to it really enjoyed it, so I was happy about that. And then 2020, at the beginning of 2020, I basically was fully in my photography bag. I had gotten a real camera. My photography looked a million times better. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do photo shoots and I'm going to connect with my community and I'm going to continue to post about them. And then after February, after I did that last photo shoot, the whole world fucking closed down because of COVID. And so all of my plans for 2020, I mean, I had plans, I had full photo shoots planned all the way out until December of that year. pre-planned. We're sourcing materials, getting everything together. My community completely shut down. I have nothing now, and I really don't have much of a brand because my brand was based on live events. Um, so I had to really hard pivot into what I was going to do next, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I was just like, I guess I'll post online now, and I just started posting memes and some local news content. Really wasn't sure what I was doing. I was just kind of playing online mostly, but I was really eager to connect with people. Like community has always been something I'm really passionate in, and I was like, well, since there's no live IRL community, I guess I'll do online community. And I connected with Lonzo Star of Concrete Comics, and because of my connection with him, and I hopped on live with him one random night. I literally was like about to go to bed, and I was like, I'm gonna just hop on live. I'm feeling chatty. We talked for whatever, and he was like, yeah, like don't lose connection with me. Like we should definitely talk again. And after that, connecting with him, I started connecting with just so many other creators, so many other people online that I never thought I would connect to. I just started randomly doing them like, well, I'm gonna do interviews live. And I started doing interviews live and I started connecting with people. And just since then, I've just been consistently working to build community within the greater online nerd community, consistently putting out work even if it's not that great. And I put out a lot of, I don't know, me personally, I'm kind of really hard on myself, but I consistently put out work even if I don't feel it's my best. And it's put me in a space where now I finally feel like I'm definitely making the content I want to make. I've definitely niched down enough to where the content is looking what I kind of always imagined myself making. It just has a lot more of me in it than I ever really imagined. So now I'm here making comic book content, doing the same shit I've been doing for the last almost 5 years, but I'm definitely a lot more confident in what I make now.
We're about to get into some really nitty gritty stuff because, like,
Mm-hmm.
the content creator, and Black Nerd, the Black Nerd is so much stuff I can ask you. I'm about to pick your brain about some stuff. But since you are a content creator, you are a Black Nerd. What is your favorite part about what it is that you do? Just as a content creator, because like you said, you're hard on yourself, but you still put out content even if it's not your best work. Meaning you turn out content, you're constantly working, you're constantly editing something, you're never not doing something. So what is your favorite part of this content creation process to you?
Recently, it has been in the I really enjoy the production phase of working with others. I wholeheartedly love a collaborative work. And I think that's probably the my least favorite thing about content creation as well, is that you often can get really isolated very quickly. And the most fun I've had as a content creator is anytime I get to collaborate, anytime I get to interview or talk or two people doing the same thing. I just genuinely love collaboration in the community building. I think that's why I am so hard on myself, is because it's really hard for me. I think that's high key. That's my one of my biggest motivations is sitting in the community. It's really hard to just sit here when you know you can do something, when you're seeing your peers make dope content every day. Like you're like, I'm not gonna do shit today. I'm gonna chill. I'm just gonna hang out. I'm gonna sit in my PJs. And then I see my friend Spice Lady Entertainment. She puts out a video and I'm like, girl, I was like not trying to look good today. And now I gotta hop on this camera and I gotta do something because you just like you I just get so genuinely inspired by my community. Um and that's really what keeps me going is collaboration in this community, man. Without them, I really wouldn't be much of nothing.
No, I understand. I actually agree with you. I love, just me personally, I love collaboration between other content creators. And I love just like you said, like sometimes you just like, you know what, I'm tired. I want to sleep today. And I'm just gonna sit here and scroll through my phone and just not think about doing work and up something just inspired me or motivated me or
Mhm.
pushed me to just go and do it because I see somebody I know doing something and I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. I get that. I really get that. I respect that actually. I really respect that. So what is your least favorite part about being a content creator and always on the grind as it were said, as you can say?
I can admit this. I probably have one of the most unhealthy relationships with the internet. I am a child of the internet. I grew up in the internet, I'm a 97 baby. So most of my life has been connected to the online world in some capacity. Um, and there's really not a way for me to escape it either, just because I'm working to be a public I am a public figure, but I'm working to be a bigger public figure. I'm working to connect with my community there, and my job is online. There's not really a place for me to escape other than offline. I would have to disconnect myself, but because I'm online all the time, there's no end for me. And I get all my entertainment online. So like it's really hard for me to unplug. And I start to feel like I have ADHD. And of course, if you're familiar with ADHD, one of the things is that people with ADHD deal with is depression. So when I'm doing really well and I'm on top of it and I'm managing everything, I feel really good. And it's like you get that positive feedback. But if you don't feel like you're doing your best, or you're not doing your best and things aren't really working out for you, you instantly start to like internalize everything that's happening online. And of course, because you're online, like you cannot escape it. I'm just like bad feedback loop. So that's probably the worst thing about being online, my least favorite aspect. I feel like I am working through it as best I can. I am definitely I'm doing everything I can in my power, whether that be meditation, medication, taking time, like genuinely disconnecting, like turning off my phone for the day, whatever I can to manage that. I try to, but it's really tough. It is probably my biggest hurdle, but despite still, I'm like I said, I'm addicted to the internet. I have a bad relationship with the internet. I go me and www dot whatever the website is, we go together bad.
I love it. I love it. I can't believe how just instantly so much I relate to you because everything you're saying, I definitely am in the same boat. I also struggle from my own issues, ADHD. I definitely understand how just emotionally, just because we're on the internet so much, we consume so much content on the internet. One day we can be on top of Mount Everest, and the next day we could just get something could happen in the real world to us or whatever, and we're just in that moment. We're just in that downness, that depression. I get all that. We're connecting on a level I did not think we would connect on so quickly into this podcast interview. So I'm enjoying this. Let's switch gears a little bit. And since we both are Black nerds and grew up within the Black community, um, how do you feel? Because I'm still realizing I have issues that I'm trying to deal with this. But how do you feel now that blerd culture and being a Black nerd is not only widely accepted just worldwide, but like within our own communities, within our own families and friends groups? Because I'm a '90s baby or '80s baby. I'm not telling my age, but I've been around for a minute, and for the longest time, it was never okay to be Black and into nerd stuff. That's just not something we grew up doing. So, what does it feel like now that it's okay to be a Black nerd and we're being accepted? Like it's just been normalized. How does this feel for you?
Ooh, I'm gonna try to I'm gonna try not to, I'm gonna try to stay on track with this one. Because I think the uniqueness, I'm trying not to get into my sociology bag right here. So back bear with me here. So essentially what my personal feelings about it is that Black people as a culture, if you're like talking about who we are as a culture, a lot of what we've had to do throughout our existence in the States, specifically because I'm from the States as well, is assimilation and survival. Everything that we are, our entire culture is based in assimilation and survival. And because of that, a lot of culturally Black people are conservative. And if I wouldn't necessarily say that anime anime is not a conservative hobby to get into. If It's just not. Anime is not a conservative hobby to get into. Comic books and pop culture, it's not a conservative hobby to be a part of. And then the aesthetics that come with that, like once you find out that there's more than dressing like, the norm of assimilation, once you find out that you could wear cool headsets like this and you can wear demonia boots and you can wear goth makeup, like you're not really interested in being conservative anymore, which can be very jarring for your socially conservative household, family, mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever you're in community with. And I think as time has progressed, and we're in 2024 now, so a lot of things just greater socially have changed. I think that a lot of people in our generation we're now at the forefront. We're the adults now. We're the people taking care of our parents. There's not really much you can tell somebody who's paying taxes and paying bills about how they're going to dress and what they can and cannot do. So we're doing the things that either are healing our inner child or making us happy. So overall, the community is more accepting. The community that I'm in community with is more accepting because we all grew up having very similar family experiences. We all grew up having very similar ideals of what we wanted our adulthood to look like. So we're going to do the things that make us happy. Although I do genuinely feel like there's still a bit of conservatism across the Black community. It's just maybe not in our space, just because we're mostly accepting, but like in spaces where places like the Shade Room run, or where your churches may run, they may not be socially accepting, and I would expect them to be, because they're run by individuals who probably aren't interested in being accepting. So my overall answer, it's about 50-50. I think our community of where we're at in our Black nerd community, super accepting. And I think the people that love us, that are okay with us being our true selves, are super accepting. But I still think the wider community of Black people is still fairly conservative, and I hope that with time, um that we can work together to not be as conservative, and that people can be more accepting of all the different versions of Black that are out there.
Yeah, I 100% agree to that. I 100% agree to that. In your opinion, what more can we do as Black nerds to approach other non-Black nerds? How can I say this? What can we do as Black nerds to go and approach those other conservative Black people within our community to get them to try to open up their minds or to what it is we do?
Um, so for some people, there is not going to be a way for you to talk to them, and you're just going to have to leave those people alone. But I think for others, as long as, like I mentioned, one of the biggest thing is community. The Black community has always been close knit, tight knit, and I think the key is meeting people where they're at. So, like I mentioned earlier, my mom is not really into anime, and she's not really into comic books and things. Well, my mom's not specifically into anime and East Asian like pop culture. That's not her thing. But she does like Charmed, she does like Angel, she does like things like that. And she has not been really big into comic book movies, but she likes when something looks cool. So for my mom, it was meeting her where she's at, is getting her into things that are similar to that I know she likes. So my mom's not, like, my dad made my mom watch Attack on Titan, and she was not in it. She hated it. She's like, this is weird, this is demonic. She was wild about it. She hated it. But um my mom has like some other shows that I've showed her. Not anime. Can't get her to watch anime. It's not her thing. But I have gotten her into something similar, some other similar shows that she has really enjoyed. And that's kind of been the way I meet her where she's at. For like my grandparents, they're my grandparents aren't really into much of anything, but my grandfather really likes comic books. So we talk about Marvel movies, and I try to get him into that. And even though not all of my family really understands what I do. Most of them don't. But it's the fact that they're interested in me. And I'd like, as I said, the key piece is like the love. If you're in community with someone and you just sharing that love, they'll be willing, anybody I think will be willing to support you and what you've got going on. Because to this day, I have people, my family sends me like random anime campaigns, like Sephiroth and Cloud have a Red Bull campaign going on, and someone sent me that on TikTok. I'm like, why are you sending me this? I don't even like Final. I don't even play with Final Fantasy. Not that I don't like it. I don't want anyone to yell at me. I don't personally play Final Fantasy, and I'm not into it. But I think community, growing your community, getting in touch with your community, talking to your community, and finding those common places of connection. They may not like everything that you do. No one's going to like everything that you do. But if you can find a place where you guys can connect and you can find that love and y'all can meet on that same level, I think that that'll make everybody so much more accepting, even if they don't rock with everything you do.
In your opinion, or let me ask you this: how do you deal? with yourself internally as a Black nerd? Because as a fellow Black nerd, you have your Black side and you have your nerd side, and a lot of times they don't see eye to eye internally. Like how do you deal with any internal strife you have between blending the two cultures and communities?
I had this conversation with Gigi Murakami. She's a black mangaka, sometime last year. And we were both talking about our experiences when we being in high school and middle school, like really getting the anime culture and into otaku culture, the greater otaku culture. Um, I think because of the unique experience of blackness that you experience, like most people who are in the blerd culture now were quirky black people, growing up. Either they were quirky just because they were non-secular, or I'm sorry, that they were secular, or they were quirky because they happened to have some kind of ADHD, autism. They were neurodivergent, so that's why they didn't fit in socially. And the community that was the otaku community is at the time, despite it being as it is now, highly racist in some cases and extremely phobic in isms, it was still a community that was more accepting than the community that you were getting at home. um, and I think at the time as you're growing up, everyone's just looking for community and a place to connect. And that was where I was at for the most part of my youth. That's where I was at. But then I entered college, and I still was quirky black girl. I started a pop culture club in college called the Pop Nerd Squad. Shout out to them. I love y'all. And starting that club and everything like that, I was still quirky and nerdy, but I did have a desire to connect with my cultural black side, and whatever that meant to me. And I took my first African American humanities class. And my
Wait, hold
professor
on.
was Mr. Tomingo.
They offer those in colleges? Because I did not get that in my college. I got a regular humanities
Yes.
class, and I have a story about that, but I would have loved to have done African American humanities.
Yes, I took an African American humanities class. I saw it and I signed up immediately. I was like, this is what I need. And my professor was Mr. Tomingo. And boy, that class was everything for me. It was truly what I needed to figure out have the words, the vocabulary, and the understanding of what I was seeking for in myself. And it would expose me to philosophers like W.E.B. Du Bois, and discovered me to things like the Harlem Renaissance, truly connecting me to parts of my culture that I had no idea existed, and truly showing to me that I'm really not an outlier. I'm no different than any of the other. Well, there's a little bit of difference there, but the thought process that I go through, the intention that I have to consistently educate myself and to connect myself to a culture that's different than mine. It's not new, it's not really revolutionary. Other black intellectuals and artisans of their time were doing the same exact thing that we were doing, and they also faced a little bit of flack for that as well. And because I now have all this knowledge about this African American humanities class, I now stepped into I became way more active in my community. I became way more aware to the world around me and the problems that my community faced, that the black community is facing. And from there, it wasn't a matter of I have two different sides. It was I am one side. One of the things that W.B. Du Bois talks about is a double mind, in which that in order, like I was talking about assimilation, I'm sorry, trying to make sure this makes sense. So W.B. Du Bois talks about this double spirited negro, in which it's not the exact words, but basically that's what it is. And it's like one side of you has to assimilate to whiteness and has to assimilate to the everyday common standard, and the other side of you has to be a nigga. That's just what it is. You've got to be, in order for you to survive in your own community, you have to be that. And you just kind of turn it on and off. And for me, my whole thing was, well, I understand where he was coming from. This double consciousness is what it's called, double consciousness. I did not want to exist in a double consciousness. I don't want to have to assimilate or code switch, as it's now kind of referred to, when I'm with one crowd and code switch when I'm with another. Even though we all kind of do that, you're not going to go in the same way that you talk at a job, talk to your mama like that. But what I've done now recently is I don't have a double consciousness. I don't personally believe I am one person. I think that I've done a good job of accepting that it is not, I'm this quirky black girl that likes anime and I'm a black person. It's, I am a black person who enjoys anime, who enjoys East Asian culture, who enjoys Japanese culture and other cultures surrounding in other cultures in Asia. I'm a black person who likes who is eclectic, who likes different things. And saying it like that, saying I am a black person first because my complexion, I'm an unambiguous black woman. My blackness is always going to come first anyway. I'm a black person first. My interests are just descriptors of me. So that's kind of how I've built myself is I like to use my interests as a descriptor of who I am and not defining what I am as a person.
Mm. I, oh my God, again, so well thought out. Clearly, this has been something that's been on your mind for quite some time, and it seems like you have found the perfect answer to eloquently describe the internal conflict you have. I love that.
Mm,
You talked about so much stuff that I want to touch on. I don't even think
mm,
we have enough time in just this one interview to go over everything you just said. But I'm gonna do my best. So bear with me. I really like how you spoke about the duality of us being both having to assimilate with whiteness, being our nerd side, and being a nigga, our black side, and having to switch back and forth in between the two. And I like your take on it. To me, it feels like you just want to be accepted as you, regardless of what culture or community you're in. You just want to be you all the time. And I think as another black nerd, that's the one thing we have been fighting and striving for is just we just want to be us all the time. And I have to switch back and forth with our vernacular and our diction and our mannerisms and things like that. Acceptance. The one thing that I have realized about the blerd community is we all want acceptance. So
mm.
what does, because we're not there, like we're clearly not there.
Right.
Regardless of how you identify as a person, you're never going to be accepted everywhere. You only can do enough
Hmm.
to be accepted generally in a lot of different places. But what does acceptance mean to you? And do you think, as a black nerd, as a black woman, can you finally and actually adequately be accepted within the community, within the blerd community, within the black community, within the nerd community? A lot of intersectionality going on there.
Um, I find that at this point I am accepted fully as myself. Um, I think that at least how I personally represent, I think that people have some may have some preconceived notions about me when they depending on like what level of interaction they have, which is it just is what it is. But I do think people accept me as I am because I don't really give them any other choice. You don't have another choice when you're talking to me, when you're interacting with me. I think where I'm at in my personal life and the trials and tribulations I've personally gone through, I'm not giving you a choice. There is only one version of Thai Black and culture that you're gonna get, and it is Thai Black and culture. You do not have options. You're gonna accept me like this in business. You're gonna accept me like this in family. We hanging around the room. Like there's not really gonna be an option. And I feel like at this stage in my life, if I'm walking into a room and I'm getting a look like I'm not accepted, either I'm gonna make myself comfortable so you can get acquainted with whom you're dealing with, or I'm gonna leave and go to a different room where I am accepted. And within the black nerd space, I do think the space is still heavily male dominated. I do see a lot more black women coming in and we're showing up and showing out. We're doing what we do. But I do think that I can't quite I won't say what it is yet because I quite frankly do not know. I do not understand it. But I do think that there is some interesting pushback with on the black male side of things to their female counterparts. It's as if black men, in my personal experience, feel very comfortable in this space and are not I won't say all. This is I'm trying not to generalize because it's not a generalized thing. I've come across a lot of black men who are extremely accepting, but there are some within the community who hold some prominent spaces that I think are not comfortable with with women, black women coming into their space, giving the same kind of vibrato, the same kind of energy. And I think there are maybe maybe looking to discredit them, maybe because they know that those Black women that are coming into their spaces may be more equipped to do the work than they are, or may have something a little bit more special about them that makes what they're doing not look as cool as what they're doing. Not to shade anybody, of course, but that's just my personal observation I've seen from the community. And to that, I would say that's why I said when you're dealing with me, you don't really have a choice. When I walk into a space, I expect to be expected, and I expect to be respected as I come, because you're not going to invite me into your space to what, to shit on me, to talk down to me. Like, who do you think this is? This is 2024, hun. We're giving respect to everybody who comes into this space, and that's what I would expect for everyone else as well. So I think for final answer is, I think what we can do as a community is, I think if it marginalized people within this already marginalized space of Black nerdism, if you feel that you are not being respected in that space, then it is your responsibility to hold the people around you accountable and have them respect you. And it is the community's responsibility, the people who respect you already, to hold you down and to further uplift you, to make sure that you are getting the respect that you're requesting. And it's the greater community's responsibility to just respect people. Like, it's so weird for anybody in this community to be disrespectful and rude and not accepting of people who look just like you. Like, I've seen Black men really take down on some other Black femme nerds, and I'm like, it's crazy because I look just like your mama. Like, I've gotten some wild comments on this internet, and I'm like, I literally look just like your mama, son. Like, I don't know why we're having this conversation. So that's like my final answer.
You said something. I expect to be expected. I'm going to steal that and I'm going to use that for everything in life now because that is such a great line. But and this is not even on my outline. But you just brought
Mm,
up something that, like, yeah, we're gonna talk about it since you said it, but there is this weird, and I don't understand it from my perspective, and you really talked about it a lot from your perspective, but I don't understand this disconnect between uh black nerd men and black nerd women and why black nerd men feel so protective of the nerd space. And I think I do understand it. I am a black male. I am a homosexual black male, so I may not fully understand the cis male genders aspect of it, but
mm-hmm.
I have nothing but cis gender male friends who are in the geek space, and even on my own podcast, they have kind of come out and said some stuff. And I'm like, huh, it's interesting that you said it like that. A lot of black nerds that I know, especially straight black nerds, they feel like that the chance for black men has passed in
Mm.
American society, meaning, in American history, it's filled with a lot of fucking bad shit. But more importantly, like, black men in the black community have, like, a lot of things have happened to us, especially in the 80s with the crack epidemic, and then in the 90s they started locking up black men. Black women were a lot of the head of households in the black community. A lot of black women were, and in my opinion, the pillars of the reason why the black culture in America has been able to survive this long. And without black women, we would be nowhere. But I feel like that for humanity as a whole, in general, like without black women, humanity would just still be in the mud right now. But they don't know it. Like, all humanity just don't understand how much, like, we owe black women. Um, but I found it weird that a lot of black men in the nerd space are protective, and it's just because they feel like that they, black men, never got their chance in society to be at the forefront like white men, like white women to some degree. And now in the year of our Lord 2024, or in the last couple of years, black women have started to come to the forefront, and I champion that. And I love seeing black women come to the forefront. We have a first female South Asian black vice president, Kamala Harris. A lot of black women have come to the forefront in industry and things like that, but a lot of black men feel threatened by the advancement of black women in society today, and it's because they feel like they've been overlooked.
I I don't I can't really speak to that experience. I feel like that's definitely something that specifically Black men. I'm sure there are other scholars and researchers who definitely could speak about this more eloquently. What I can say and surmise is it might be a contributing factor is that and again, I'm trying not to make this too socio-political here, but I will say this, that one thing that we notice as Black people is that the closer you are to whiteness is the closer you are to like a hegemonic ideal of success.
I
Everyone
yeah.
wants to be as close, to the white man as possible, and I feel that um Black men sit on the Punnett square of closeness to whiteness, while they may not be closeness and maybe complexion, to white men. That's the pinnacle. They are still men, and I feel like in their minds they think that their maleness should allow them the opportunity to have hold some kind of dominant foothold in this space. Because for so long, I think white men had that space, and now it's been opened up to be more diverse. And now everyone's having their piece of the pie, and Black men are wondering, perhaps why don't we have that foothold? We thought if we were next in line, because that's kind of how it's gone for a while, is white men, then Black men, then the women come next. And again, I could be completely off base there, but I think that might be a contributing factor. I also think that it might be just the fact that plain old misogynoir. Some men just genuinely do not like women, and they don't want women in their spaces. They don't like Black women, and they don't want Black women in their spaces because it's just they're misogynistic, and they may not call it that, they may not say it's that, but that's just kind of what that is. For those men, some of those men, they cannot be helped. Some of those men, they're lost in the sauce. They can't be scooped out. But I think for some of those men, the key is just education and community. Really connecting them to other individuals who have different viewpoints, and other individuals within our marginalized community, primarily Black women, connecting them with people and just getting them conversating in a healthy way of talking about, hey brother, like, I respect you, I love what you're doing, but what you said was disrespectful, or what you said wasn't conducive to, and wasn't respectful to our community. And respectful call outs, not taking anybody down, I think that could potentially help. But like I said, some people, they lost in the sauce and they can't be saved. She don't want to be saved.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think is I don't want to say a certain dichotomy, but it is a certain belief within Black men that we were supposed to be next. We went through civil rights, and like there's this whole thing, especially in Black America, where when Black people get something, everybody get that same thing. Especially when it comes to coming close to whiteness. So, in the 1960s, we got civil rights. Everybody got civil rights. Everybody got equality, but we still weren't fully equal to them. And the game that we were all playing, that they set up, that we helped build, and all of that, it's America's a mess. Jesus Christ.
Ain't
Um,
it though? Ain't it though? Don't move here. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. No stars on Amazon
Right,
Prime.
exactly. But like as a Black man, I do get it, because I grew up in that, oh, we're next, we did our hard work, and we worked 4 or 5 times as harder as the next white person, this and that. And again, not trying to get apolitical or racist or anything. But I get that mindset, but I also, because I was raised by my mother, by my grandmother, my sister. Well, I helped raise her, but like I was raised by Black women. So in my mind, it doesn't make sense that a man could have like this kind of mindset, because we wouldn't be anywhere without y'all. Like we wouldn't be anywhere without y'all. Because they was killing us. They still killing us. Find any reason to do it. And Black women have been the ones that, by situation and circumstances, been the ones to help lead the community and the culture and keep us thriving. And to me, it sickens me a little bit to see a Black man, especially a Black man, come down on a Black woman who's just trying to be in that same space. Because that
Right.
doesn't make
And
sense to me, because we wouldn't be anywhere without each other's help in the first place, especially in this
absolutely.
country. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to go down that
No,
road,
no,
but
no,
like
you're fine.
you are so insightful, and you speak so eloquently about these subjects, so it makes these things easier to talk about. So I'm very happy to actually have you on. I didn't even think we would get down this road. I thought we would just talk about Star Wars versus Star Trek or
Not
something.
Star
No,
Wars
we're
versus
talking
Star
about
Trek.
we're talking about some serious issues that affect our community. So I'm gonna just
Yeah.
ask you this: in your
hmm
opinion, within the blerd community, what are some other issues you think that we should address within the blerd space?
I definitely one of the things I think that we could definitely address is formulating stronger community, like some kind of system in which we are all working to bring each other up. I think that it's not that our community doesn't exist. I think community exists within the blurred space, but I do see sometimes we become kind of cliquish, um, and we're not willing really to connect. Now I say this is from my own experiences, not speaking for anyone else. I've just had instances in which um I'm definitely devoted to building community within my own space, as I try really hard to do so. But I've had people within my own community, it seems like, actively try to exclude others, or they may be actively working to not be honest within the space, which also isn't that great. Um, and I think for me, the key is I would love to see people in all aspects of their community working and doing initiatives to build stronger community, especially with your smaller, your nano and your micro creators. I've been a nano micro creator for some years now. And not to say that I'm not rushing to become any bigger than what I am. I'm definitely taking my time. Whatever opportunities come to me. But what I haven't seen really since that 2018 era is this interest in like collaboration, and let me bring you on my podcast, or let me collaborate you on your YouTube channel, and let me bring you on my Twitch stream, and let me do this and let me do that. It seemed like I had mentioned much earlier in this podcast, there's a lot of isolation that comes with content creation, and it can be really disheartening working in this space and not feeling like you can talk to anybody, not feeling like you can connect with anybody, when literally we're all going through very similar things. We're
Mm,
all fighting the same kind of situations. We're all getting overlooked because somebody else with fairer skin and bluer eyes has an is doing who's done doing the making equal or lesser content than you, is getting picked for these opportunities. We're all having these experiences, and it just doesn't make any sense that we're not doing more to collaborate and bring each other up, and we're not doing more initiatives. And I think one thing that could help with this is that companies within our space, that are seeing themselves and improve and grow bigger, they could do initiatives to bring in not just these large creators who already kind of established themselves and are making some kind of money here and there, but maybe some smaller creators whose the exposure really would lead them to a couple of dollars here and there. Community building, that's like always going to be like my number one answer. Building community is the only way to truly address a lot of the issues that we have. So that was one issue. Another issue I see within our community is, you know, when there is there's this weird kind of don't talk about it, don't ask, don't kiss and tell kind of situation, where things kind of happen behind closed doors. And I don't know if this is a bigger issue. This is more like a tiny gripe. I personally am of the mind, if someone is bad for business, I would really like to know that someone is bad for business. I really don't want to wait until 2-3 years come down the line and so has been hurt by X person before we're able to call that person out and we have like years worth of receipts. I personally don't want to wait that long. I feel if someone is bad for business, we as a community, especially if someone tells you that someone is bad for business because they are a poor person for whatever reason, I think that we should work harder to believe people and get people out of the community who are bad for business. It's really sad to hear when someone who's a pillar in your community isn't a good person because they have taken advantage of a lot of people. You never want to hear that. And a lot of times it could be truly avoided, or other people could be notified so that they're not hurt if someone just spoke up and said, "Hey, this person is doing something to me." And I know there are a lot of reasons why victims who have been harmed for whatever kind of link that is, they often don't come out about it, is because the community doesn't believe them, or people are like, "Oh, I don't believe you, X, Y, and Z." Like I said, it's an issue because you need the community to rally behind you when you're hurting and when you're struggling. So I wish the community was more accepting of people who are coming forward with their stories of hurt and their stories of pain. And I wish that more victims of hurt and pain would speak up about when they're being hurt so that the community could protect them and the community could protect others. Those are two issues I've seen.
But let's go back into talking about your content and the type of content you create. In the pre-interview, you talked about BN'K tour, and you mentioned doing press and creating a press outlet for other press outlets within the blerd space. So I want to ask you, since I do this also, how did you get into the press outlet game of being able to go to cons and cover cons as press and cover the cons on your outlet and however which ways you do that? How did that all start for you?
So my uncle is a was a I don't know, is he still, I don't know. At the time when I first got started, my uncle was pretty popular within my local community no, convention community. And he specifically was doing guest relations for a local convention that I love going to. And this was right when Black and Culture was getting started, and he was like, "Hey, niece, you should come and you should do this thing, apply and see if you get in." So I applied, I got in, and I got the opportunity to meet a ton of people, interview a lot of people. That I got to interview one person, but I sat in on a couple of other interviews and I took pictures and I connected with people. And I was like, I really enjoyed this. This is really cool. At the time, I was just Black and Culture doing this, and this was pre-COVID, so at the time I was still doing live events and I connected, and I knew that I liked doing events. There's just connecting with people at events is how, one, how you build community, and two, like there are just so many dope people doing dope stuff at conventions and you just never hear about it. They never get covered because people are so concerned with voice actors and celebrities and X, Y, and Z. You just never get the opportunity to see some of these people on the floor with their amazing costumes, or these creators out here doing dope stuff, or just panels that are people are putting together and putting their heart, their blood, sweat, and tears into. Um, so that's how BN'K on tour got started. It was just Black and Culture. And then in 2021, I applied for, yeah, in 2021, I applied for a convention. I got in, and that was my first time doing like convention press closer to the way I do it now. I did a full convention reel, I did my interviews, I wrote my first review, and I really enjoyed it. The convention gave me positive remarks on it, and I was like, this is it. This is what we really need. And the big pillars I've been focusing on with BN'K on tour, it definitely, every year I've been getting better. Those first couple years, the content was crunchy. The content did not look great. Wasn't really where I was at. But now a big focus with BN'K on tour, what me and my team do when we go to conventions is we're focusing on the experience. We're focusing on the experience that you go as an attendee, the experience from the convention standpoint, like are they a good convention? And then the big thing that we're focusing on is diversity and inclusion. We want to know if the con that you're going to, that you're spending quite literally $100+ on, is this con that you're dropping a stack on really worth your time? Are they inclusive? Do they feature diversity? Are they taking, if you need a mobility aid, can you get your wheelchair through the vendor hall? If you have epilepsy, is someone going to flashlight touch your face? Are you going to be in a space where you're protected? If you're Black or POC, do you feel comfortable walking through the convention as a Black person, as a POC, a person of color? Are you seeing yourself represented in the guests? Are you seeing yourself represented in the panels? Do you feel like you'll be attacked? Are the rooms clean? Is it safe to be around? Is the food too expensive? How is staff? Is staff rude to you? Does everything work at the convention? If they have an app, does the app work? And it's not something I was personally seeing at conventions. Like even now that I'm doing other, like looking at other convention reviews, there are definitely people who are doing great work on like YouTube. But sometimes a lot of the reviews I'm still coming across, a lot of them are very surface level. Like, oh, I had a good time at the event, or me and my friend had a good time at an event, or it ends up being much like a vlog. That's not what BN'K is trying to do. We're really trying to capture the moments, the experiences of these events. We're trying to see if these events are worth going to. Because personally, as a con goer, I've gone to over 40 cons at this point. I've had so many different experiences at conventions. Even the same convention can provide you a widely different experience from year to year. And that's important. You need to know if, consistently, does this convention, is this convention worth going to and spending your money at? Or, should you maybe save it up to go to something else? And because of that, I've especially this year, just so far with the work that we've done this year, I really love the work that we're putting in. Um, I love the fact that I have help now. It's not just me processing reviews and content and doing photography. I'm so incredibly blessed to have a really strong team now that's been we've got some cons coming up, and also that means we get to process all of our old stuff. So if you see BN'K on tour over the next couple of months, you're gonna see a lot of our older content from like 2022 because we're finally getting around to processing. I feel so embarrassed saying that.
You shouldn't feel embarrassed. If I told you how far behind I'm on putting out content, we can trade war stories. But let me ask you this. You clearly are a con veteran. How many different cons have you covered with BN'K? What have been some of your favorite cons and favorite experiences, and least favorite cons and least favorite experiences?
Most of the cons I've covered are Orlando local, because I'm from Orlando, Florida. So two of the prominent cons that I've covered so far have been Anime Festival of Orlando and Holiday Matsuri. Last year I got the opportunity.
No,
Last year I got the
people
opportunity.
have been trying to get me to go to Hot Mat for so long. I have to
Yeah.
make it down there, so I'm definitely going to try to make it down there to that one.
You should. I'll talk a little bit about Hall because they've got some interesting experiences. And last year I got to do MetroCon. This year we've got a couple of conventions coming up, so I won't spoil them yet because I have to release my con thing for this year. Um, so my favorite convention that I've gone here in Orlando, I'd have to say is Holiday Matsuri. Um, Holiday Matsuri truly is one of those conventions that, and it's crazy because a lot of people talk about it because it is truly they are a really solid convention. I will say I think I've noticed that staff has changed hands over the years, which had me a bit apprehensive. But so far they've truly stood the test of time. Even though last year they had horrible dates due to some internal logistic issues, they had midweek dates, so they were doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which I was like, this isn't great. But they still pulled through. They still pulled a pretty fantastic show on the surface. It had, of course, it's going to have its logistical issues just because of it's a midweek convention, but they did as best they could. But consistently since I've been attending holiday since I want to say 2015, 2016. So 2015, 2016 is when I was attending Hallmat. It's been consistently a pretty solid con. My least favorite convention up until about 2 years ago, I don't know, I still iffy for me is Orlando MegaCon. And the reason I have a very, very specific reason why. So I had been going to Orlando MegaCon since 2013. I had been going for a while. In 2015, they changed hands. They sold to Fanboy Expo, I believe is what they're called, the parent company. Um, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Fanboy Expo. They run a lot of different other conventions uh like Tampa Bay MegaCon and Philadelphia Expo or anything that has like Expo in it. It's probably Fanboy Expo running it. They're a huge ass company. When Fanboy Expo initially took over Orlando MegaCon, it was abysmal. 2016, 2017, some of the worst con experiences I have ever had. The lines were egregiously long for pre-reg. Like lines should never be as long as they were. Like I personally, I know that you warriors out there who go to Anime Expo and all that shit over in LA, that's cute. That's West Side stuff. We don't deal with that over here. Not on East Side. Any convention I've attended East Side. Pre-reg was so long. I'd never experienced anything like that. The vendor hall was so packed. Everything was muggy. And I'm from Florida. Muggy is not what you want to be in a packed convention hall with all those different smells. Um, I paid all that money and it felt like I was spent more time complaining and crying about the heat and the people than I did actually enjoying the convention. So I actually swore off MegaCon after 2016. I said, I will never go back to this convention. You could not pay me. And then someone paid me, paid for me to go to Orlando MegaCon in 2023. So I went last year and I went this year. I still would say right now it's not the worst con ever. It is still just personally my least favorite convention. I think MegaCon, Orlando MegaCon has an overcrowding issue specifically on Saturday, and I think this is something that a lot of big cons do because they know Saturday is their biggest day. They sell a lot of tickets. I wish cons would stop doing that shit. It's highly uncomfortable. It's highly unsafe to me for you to pack thousands of people into a vendor hall. There's no AC for people who are short like myself. I'm literally like I'm 5'2". I know I got a big personality, but I got short feet. I am close to the ground. I can't see over nobody's shoulders. It is hot. It is hectic. And it is really overwhelming, especially as some like I have a lot of sensory issues. So I get genuinely overwhelmed being that close to a lot of people, and I end up like spazzing out in crowds. Not supposed to say spaz, but I end up getting very overwhelmed in crowds, and I don't like it. And I really wish conventions would do better with not overcrowding or creating some kind of like walking system so that people aren't like consistently getting bumped and like getting pins knocked off my back because literally I'm this close to people. So those are my con experiences specifically with Orlando. We'll see how that changes as I attend a few more cons in the Southeast this year.
Have you only stuck to cons within the Orlando, Florida area, or do you go to any out of state cons?
Well, this year I'll be going to two out of state cons. I'm going to MomoCon and not
I'm
the
sorry,
X.
I'm a MomoCon. So you're coming to Atlanta? That's my territory.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see you at Momo.
yeah. I'm going to MomoCon, and I'm not quite sure yet, but I should be going. I was supposed to go back for AWA. I don't know if that's the case right now. Also, just trying to make sure I'm budgeting out my year this year because hotels are not cheap. So I would say cons are typically just not feasible for me right now and where I'm at in my life. So and I'm more interested in, going to more Florida cons anyway. So, but this year I'm definitely going to Momo. That's been confirmed. Like I will be at Momo this year. So if you're in Momo, you see me, hi, I'll be there. I've got a lot of cool stuff I'm bringing to Momo. Um, but yeah, not nothing big yet. Next year is my intention is to do some stuff in New York and some stuff in Philly. I've got some friends up there that really want me to travel. Um, but I don't know. I'm a pretty big scaredy cat. I don't like going to new places by myself, so I have to convince my crew to go with me. I'm not brave enough yet to just go solo travel and meet up with people. I just feel like that's a good way to get snatched up. And I'm not trying to get snatched up. Cons are wild places, so I just try to be really safe when I travel to conventions.
Gotcha. So you mentioned MomoCon. Put a pin in that. We're gonna stop everything and talk about MomoCon for about 10 minutes. Um,
Okay.
so are you covering MomoCon Express?
Yes, I will be actually double duty. I will be BN'K on tour, will be covering MomoCon as press, and Black and Culture will be there as a content creator. So it will be me and my team. I will be actually be leaving my team to their own devices, and they will have their own things that they have to cover, and then I will be covering completely separate press. That's the plan anyway. But we'll see how that goes. But that's the intention.
Okay. Have you ever been to MomoCon before?
Never been to MomoCon. I've done some research on Momo, kind of like getting a feel for the location and stuff like that. I've never been to Atlanta. I've been to Georgia before, but never Atlanta. And I'm letting you know right now, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm a little
Okay.
scared,
Okay. All right. All
I'm
right.
a little scared.
All right. I'm gonna put all your fears to rest.
Oof.
I'm gonna
All
talk
of
to
them.
you about MomoCon because it is fastly become one of my favorite conventions to go to. I make sure I go to it every year. I've been covering
Okay.
it as press every year for a couple of years. You're gonna have an amazing time there, both as BN'K on tour. They're gonna have a great time there doing press. You're gonna have a great time being an influencer. Let me tell you what you about to get into.
Okay.
So, did MomoCon last year? They said the Georgia World Congress Center. They moved from Hall A to Hall B, so it's a bigger space.
Okay.
It is one of Atlanta's big three cons. You have MomoCon, DragonCon, and AWA.
AWA. Mm-hmm.
Um, MomoCon, well, technically AWA is the smallest of the three cons, but MomoCon, it has like it used to be a really small con, like just for college kids, and now it's grown to be a really bigger, more encompassing con, but still for the younger crowd. Um, MomoCon is black. I don't care what you say. Last year going to MomoCon, all the black cosplayers, all the black content creators, all the black and they're really trying to step up their diversity game when it comes to the guests,
Mm,
when it comes to representation, their panels. There's plenty of black and plenty of queer representation there. There's
mm.
plenty of interesting panels. Blerd Over will be there doing a panel. Karen
Oh,
Ashley and the Blerd Over podcast, she'll be there doing a panel with Hilton George, who's the owner of BlerdCon.
okay.
Dana Morgan. If you don't know Dana Morgan now, get used to hearing her name. She will be the magical black fairy that is also a unicorn that will be making all your magical dreams come true during Dragon Con. Don't ask me how. She does 50 million things, but she helps out everybody. She helps
Okay.
out everybody. You will see her as a blur in the corner of your eye, but she will make everything happen for you, and it'll be like fairy dust everywhere. Love Dana. I cannot um give her enough credit for how the press runs for that convention because of her alone.
I love that.
The volunteers at MomoCon are amazing. Julie, Raven, again, this is my backyard, so I know the people. So,
This is your home con. Okay,
right,
okay.
well, yeah, this is one of my home cons. So like you're gonna love the people, you're gonna love the space, you're gonna feel safe, but then you will also instantly not feel safe. It is Atlanta. I will warn you,
Yeah.
you can walk down one street and make the wrong turn, and then you like, wait a minute,
Well, first off,
wait a minute.
you already playing with me because I'm not walk where I'm for this particular con. We decided not to do the host hotel for a number of reasons. I personally wanted some distance from the host hotel. I think after I do this year, I will probably choose the host hotel. So I think I'm only a single mile away. Because I'm at a local hotel that's like a mile away. So we'll probably be Ubering up every day or something to that nature. Um, but I just wanted to feel a little bit more comfortable. Typically, how I do cons I've never been to, the first year that I go, I like to create some space between myself and where I'm going, just so like if I ever need to like completely decompress, I'm not overwhelmed or anything like that. Um, that's
Great
typically
idea.
how I do things.
That's a great idea. You should definitely do that for MomoCon because Friday and Saturday night in the courtyard of where the event is just a party, a huge party. Everybody there that ain't got kids, even some kids will
That
be
ain't
there
got
up
kids.
until 2, 3 in the morning. Last year, I
Okay.
think Ed Sheeran shut down the party because they had his concert going on at the same time
Oh
as
yeah, I
MomoCon.
heard.
Yeah, so you probably heard about that. But the courtyard at MomoCon is where the party is. There's no parades, so you don't have to worry about that. Or at least I don't think there's a
Okay.
parade this year. Um, the cosplay photo shoots, like they're really starting to get big into doing the cosplay photo shoots, so I definitely recommend
Okay.
that. Their guests and vendor floor is amazing. MomoCon is just amazing. It's in the beautiful part of downtown Atlanta. You're right next to Mercedes Benz and State Farm Arena, Centennial Olympic Park. Um, you can walk the streets at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and feel safe.
Okay.
Again, don't make that one left right there. You continue
I
straight.
got that one left.
Don't make that one.
Listen,
Just stay straight on Marietta Street. You'll be fine. But trust me. During this time of year, plenty of APD will be out. You'll be fine. And then it helps if you know somebody local like me.
yeah, I have a couple of people. Quite a few of my nerd and blurred friends have been. Everyone's been trying to pull me out of Florida because no one wants to come down here anymore since since our
Well,
governor's
you
been making
know
it terrible.
why. You
I
know
mean,
why.
first off, I know why. I am very aware of why no one wants to be here in Florida. I get it. I understand. I just, I'm like, but don't y'all want to come see me? And everyone's like, no, we don't. And I get it. I understand. 10 out of 10. Totally. I understand. I would not recommend anyone to be here longer than they absolutely need to be. So I get it. But at the same time, what I just, I just want to visit. I want my friends to visit me, but I'm excited to go to Momo. Momo looks like an absolutely terrific con. I've been wanting to go to Momo for I think I've been wanting to go to Momo since I think about 2016. So this is a long time coming. And to do it on a year where I get invited out as press, um, is truly spectacular. So I'm very excited to cover Momo. Also, I've got a couple of FGC conventions down here in Florida, so I'm really excited to do cover more of those events. Ah, my goodness, I love the fighting game community. They're truly a spectacular community to be a part of. So um I'm really excited for what BN'K on tour is doing this year. Also shout out to my absolutely phenomenal photographer, Larry J Photos 187, or as I lovingly call him, Blaze. He is truly a phenomenal photographer. I don't The kind of quality that he puts out through his computer, not through his computer, through his camera, is truly spectacular. I'm truly without him, I don't feel like I'd be half as good. Our team would be half as good. So like he's really amazing. So I love my team. Also my assistant, my beautiful sister, she carries our team. She's the one that manages all of our schedules when we're at conventions, because we need someone to manage our schedules. And then my friend Goop, she just joined our team as well, so and she'll be helping us with videography and interviews and things of that nature. So my team is growing. We're ready to cover anything, and we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm so excited for everything we've got coming out.
I cannot wait to have you in Atlanta for MomoCon, and you and your team. I hope you guys have a blast. I will personally roll out the red carpet for you guys and show
Thank
you
you,
around the
thank
town
you.
and show you where to go and where not to go, and try to make your experience here in Atlanta as best as possible, because not this year but next year I would personally like to invite y'all to Dragon Con. And if you've
Mm.
ever heard of Dragon Con or know what it is,
I have. That's another big con that everyone's been talking about. And actually that was the one thing that we decided. Dragon Con is just, if you're not familiar with Dragon Con, but most people are, it's a very expensive con. That's the only thing, is an
oh,
incredibly
expensive is an
inexpensive con.
understatement. It's an
I
understatement.
it's a incredibly expensive con. Even if I were to get into con free, in my ticket were comped for whatever, if I was covering the event, or if I just happened to be invited out to the convention, I'd still have to cover a room and things, unless I was a guest, which I don't think I'll be invited to a guest anytime soon, just because, not there yet. But it's an expensive ass con, and I just want to make sure that our pennies, quarters, dimes, nickels, and all the rest of our currency is properly stacked before we make it a trip like that.
I will say this about Dragon Con, and maybe it will convince you that it's
Mm.
worth every single penny. I have done Dragon Con every single year since the year 2006, when I
Oh wow.
was 18 and first going to my first convention. I was hooked I was hooked waiting 5 hours in line to get my badge to go to that con. I was like, this will be the
Mm.
con I go to every year. Dragon Con has something for everybody.
Mm.
Yes, it's gonna be crowded. Last year was 100,000 people there on Saturday alone,
Ooh.
but it's
Okay.
so many different hotels and venues. It's so spread out over just all of downtown Atlanta. So many side parties and side things to do. Dragon Con is unlike any other convention you've ever gone to. Like, yeah, they have panels and guests and celebrities and photo shoots, but it's so much more than that. It's an experience. It's literally a party, a geek fest for a week. It starts before it officially starts, and it ends officially after it ends, and it lives within your heart forever. Um, no, I know that's a
No,
cheesy line
I
I
truly
just said.
no. I feel it, because I have a friend. A lot of our I run a Black Nerd group here in Orlando. And a lot of our nerds, they end up going, like, I think the last 3 years, they're like, we've got to plan a group trip up to Dragon Con. I'm like, listen, that's a and unfortunately the truth of the matter is that, cons over the last decade have really exploded in price. And being completely transparent, well, I love doing cons. And I like being at cons and living the con life. it really is something that you have to budget for. And if you're someone who's not, making a lot of money, and I'm definitely not making a ton of money. A lot of what I do for Black and Culture, as many people know, you do this for free until you get your first break. Um, and I love doing what I do for Black and Culture. I truly would do this for no money if that's what I'm doing now. But if I want to feasibly be able to continue to do this, we would definitely have to either increase the amount of currency we're earning on ourselves, or BN'K on tour would have to be comped a little bit more. I would have to be comped a little bit more to attend multiple of those cons. Because I mean, it's not just Dragon Con that I want to go to. It's all the other amazing large cons like Anime
True.
NYC,
True.
and even though I don't really know if I really want to go to Anime Expo, but like to go at least one time, or I think that's what Crunchyroll's convention is, Anime Expo. There's tons of conventions all around the states that you want to go to, and then of course eventually I'd love to go to an out of state convent, an out of the states convention, an overseas one. All that takes time, money, and energy, and you really have to plan for those things. So I'm trying to do right by my team. That's why I told them, I was like, we get to pick one out of state con. We get to pick maybe one or two. If we can make to it in Atlanta, that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. It's not even that far from the tip of Florida. So that's why we chose Atlanta. And I was surprised that Momo actually accepted us for press, just because a lot of our peers that we had talked to had said that they had not gotten accepted for press at MomoCon. Um, for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. And I personally think that they have amazing content and they do great coverage. So I wasn't quite sure. Not that I'm going to question it. I just don't know why, but I'm forever grateful that Momo gave us the opportunity to cover the event. I think that we provide something really really unique and special to conventions. But it was still a bit jarring knowing that we got the opportunity when some of our other peers had not. So that's one of the main reasons why we're going to MOBAs, because we weren't expecting to. I've wanted to go for years, so it's without a shadow of a doubt. BN'K on tour, Black and Culture, we will be in Atlanta that week for sure.
The one thing I can say about MomoCon and probably why now you're being approved, they are 100% reaching out to try to be more inclusive and more diverse,
Mm,
and bring other nerd spaces within their community so they can grow as a brand. Like I said,
mm,
MomoCon started out as just a con for local college kids. It used to be free to go. I
mm,
remember going back when I was in college, 2006, 2007. It was at Georgia Tech campus, and it was just in their lobby, and we would just go show up, play video games, and just talk about Naruto or whatever was popular at the time. And it's a real deal, big time con that's trying to rival the biggest con in the Southeast, being Dragon Con, and take its
mm.
crown, which it could. It has about 10, 15 years to go, but Dragon Con's been around for like 30, 40 years. And,
Right.
before then, it was the American Science Festival convention thing before that, before weird stuff happened. So it's a tremendous experience. I definitely recommend it so much. Like MomoCon has a special place in my heart. Like Dragon Con,
Mm.
like 8 Way, like Ranger Stop and Pop, like all the Atlanta cons. It has a
Ranger
special,
Stop, man. Gosh, I love when Ranger Stop comes to Florida. It's so great.
yeah.
There's just not enough. There's not enough Power Ranger stuff, I swear.
Oh my God, that's a whole other podcast topic. I'm gonna have you on for just talking about Ranger Stop and Pop alone. Cause I've gone to the Atlanta ones. I've gone to all the Atlanta ones, and I've always been invited to do press for them in Orlando. But like you said, cons cost money. Even if you get your ticket
Yeah.
bump, you still got to get down there. You still got to get a
So I gotta get
hotel.
it.
You still got to, hope PTO grow on trees, and it so far does not.
It does not grow on trees. What I will say is, I've done a really good job of connecting individuals and the people come down to Orlando. So if you genuinely are interested to come down to Orlando, of course, we're connected now. So just let me know. We'll see what we can shake some. Um, but yeah, Orlando is it's we've got some I think that, or not just Orlando, but Florida in general, we have some very unique conventions. that I really think that well, part of me is like, please don't come down here. Please don't inflate the price of these cons. I can't take it no more. But the other part of me is like, we just have some very unique conventions. That I think that it would be interesting if more people would put their eyes on it and more people connect with it. Like now we have this tabletop convention called QuestCon that is I've been going since its inception. I think for the last 2 years. This will be its third year. It's really tiny right now, but I personally have not heard of another con dedicated to tabletop. Like just that's all you do is tabletop, like D&D, Warhammer, and other tabletop stuff. And it's a blast every year that I've gone. It's just been so much fun. The creators of the convention are so incredibly kind, and they're really listening to everybody about, what's going to come next. And I think that's just because, Orlando is a unique nerd and geek space. And I personally don't think that people have quite tapped into our nerd market. I think that we're still slowly growing. We're not as big as some other places on the map yet, but we have a very diverse and unique nerd community. And it would be really cool if more people like really saw and invested in what was down here.
That's very interesting because you would think with it being Orlando, with Disney being there, it would be heavy into some form of entertainment or nerd culture or something like that. So that's surprising hearing that.
Yeah, we have a vibrant nerd community. We do. But I think I would say is that we're disjointed a bit here. I think that we're very separated by sides of the city. If you're either, not to say like it's on anything, no gang affiliation bullshit, nothing like that. But very like if you're on the east side, you have like your connection is east side. If you're on west side, your connection is on west side. And it's only recently that like a lot more like community pillars, I would say, places where you would gather. Like one of our big staples here is Arcade Monsters, huge arcade and eatery kind of restaurant. They're finally, they have locations now. They're starting to pop up all over Orlando and spreading out to other little spaces around Florida. Other places are starting to establish themselves and things like that, but it wasn't like this. Even with as many places we have here, it didn't look like this down here. Yeah, it didn't look like this down here 10, 15 years ago. It did not look like this down here. It was just Disney, SeaWorld, and Universal.
Mm.
Um and a lot of people when they come to Orlando, I think people, at least in my experience, again, just speaking from my experience, and when people come down here, they aren't really thinking about anything other than going to the parks. Like unless you got family down here or friends down here and you're aware of like, oh, maybe you can go to the beaches or do something else, you're really down here for the theme parks, which is fine. You can go there. You can spend $200 on a ticket and enjoy that life. But I mean, also there's so many other incredible experiences and now nerd experiences that you could do here in Orlando. Um, that I think that people just aren't aware of. Like we really do got some crazy, crazy cool events happening here that I'm consistently inspired by and like, oh snap, we have that now. That just wasn't here even 2 or 3 years ago.
That's interesting. I know personally for me it's been probably 20 years since I've last been to Orlando on vacation, going to Universal Studios and City Walk and all that stuff. So it would be nice to once Florida stops being Florida and all the craziness
You mean
happens.
2027? Got it.
Right. So whenever all that stuff, whenever it's safe for Black people to go back down to Florida, and the NAACP don't have to personally advise us to not go down there, I'll visit Orlando and see what the nerd scene is about. No, I'm just
Oh,
joking. I do
absolutely.
really want to go to Holiday Matsuri. I've been wanting to do that for like the last 5 or 6 years or so.
What I will say is it's much like how I've heard, Atlanta is not Georgia.
Yeah.
Orlando really Atlanta is not Georgia, it's not Atlanta.
It's not.
Orlando is not Florida. Orlando is not Florida. Miami-Dade is not Florida. Duval is not Florida. Those are truly like we are all kind of like each city has its own very unique culture that is completely separate from its other parts. There are some parts of Florida that's just, that's real, it's just not the rest of the state. And I think that if Orlando is going to feel like another very popular metropolitan city, it's diverse, it's comfortable here. We don't really have. I personally have not experienced too much racism or bigotry here personally. Now, that we've had some incidents, and I'm always shocked by those incidents. I shouldn't be, but I am should I because it just really doesn't happen here in Orlando, in the greater Orlando area. We really are. We're kind of diverse now. Once you get out of Orlando and you start getting into some of those smaller cities that sound like they shouldn't be on the map at all, that's when your issue lies. But again, that's just any kind of like southern state. I feel like if you go outside of that, that very safe city, you're going to experience something a little bit different. So Orlando is very inclusive, very safe from my experiences. I would say that there are people who actively walk down the cold Orlando street at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just like, you are very crazy. I don't know if I personally would do that, but that's genuinely because Orlando has partly through the gentrification, partly just because it really just is not that dangerous down here. I don't people will make you think that it's dangerous in Orlando, and it's not. It really isn't. It's not that place. we're not other places. So it's very safe here. Just here. Can't
I
advise anywhere else.
I give you that. I will give you Orlando is like Atlanta, is not like the rest of its surrounding area. However, Orlando is a weird place. Because last time I was there, I saw something I've never seen happen before in nature, and I don't
Mm.
think I ever want to see this again. Big ass snake versus big ass alligator
Oh
in
yeah.
murky water while I'm walking from City Walk at 2 a.m. I never want to see that again. I had to walk across, we had to go the long way to avoid big ass alligator versus big ass snake in the shallow, murky water right outside the
Yeah.
city. So
Every day. I mean, it's still Florida. Like it's nature. Like
it's still
you can't stop the alligator from being the alligator. You can't stop we got puddle gators down here. I don't make the rules. This is just life down here.
well. When somebody told me that every body of water has something, an alligator in it, I was like, you know what? Florida is
Most
a
likely, yeah.
nice place, but Florida is a place you visit in books and on the internet, and that's where I'll
Bucks.
leave Florida.
Yeah, it's even our we have a popular spring down here called Wakaiwa Springs. And in on the little sign it says, hey, just be careful, be aware there's wildlife. And yeah, in the springs everyone swims and they're alligators. They just be chilling. And but they're big swamp puppies. They're really not aggressive,
Oh,
truly.
I
I feel like if they're really, you don't start with them, they won't start with you. There are some aggressors out there, but there's aggressive things everywhere. You just gotta don't go up and pet one. That's all I can say. You just don't run in zigzags either. That doesn't mean anything. Just do your best to escape.
I
Grab a
always
fire pit.
wonder, was that a myth or like was that
Yeah.
true? But
It's so
now I
they
know.
teach you how to do that. I was a part of the generation that was taught to run in zigzags to avoid alligators. That does not work. Alligators are incredibly fast. I don't know how fast they are, but they're much faster than you think. Um, and I am very unfit. I live a very sedentary lifestyle. I will never be able to outrun an alligator. So your best bet is to treat it like a shark and either escape it immediately, or grab some kind of hard thingy and smack it on its head, and keep running, because if you're not a very fast runner, you're not gonna, unless you're Usain Bolt, you're not outrunning it. Yeah, so but again, like I said, alligators, they're big swamp puppies. I really haven't been to Gatorland. What can I say? I've
I've
just
been to
been very
Gatorland. I've been to Gatorland, and no, I'm sorry, those are not puppies. Those are
they
man-eating
are
killers.
those are babies.
They lick
They're
their
like
chops at
stretches.
you. I've never seen an animal that looks at you like you're the meal. That's weird.
I mean, you kind of are. I don't know. And perhaps that is just my Florida sensibilities. I'm truly desensitized by alligators. No, I have never fought one. All of my interactions with alligators have been overwhelmingly positive. So I don't have anything bad to say about my swamp puppies. Um, those are the babies. We love them down here. They are protected for a reason. We stand an alligator.
Well, I guess that's fine. But hey, like Florida state motto, if the alligators don't kill you, the hurricanes will.
I, I guess I don't know. I've never been killed by a hurricane, and I've
No,
experienced
I'm
several
just
of them.
joking. I'm just joking. But anyway, we're getting towards the end of this podcast. We've actually been on for like almost 2 hours. So
Oh goodness, I didn't notice.
yeah, but see, that's what happens when you have great conversation and you have
Hmm.
meet new interesting people that you just want to keep talking for another 2 hours with. But since you're new to my podcast and this is your first time on, I would like to turn the microphone to you. Well, not turn the microphone to you. I would like to hand you the floor and see if there's any questions you wanted to ask me. Because again, this is like the first time we really had a conversation and really got to know each other. So I'll give you a second to ask me a question or two if you got one.
Yeah. So what has been your favorite anime in the last maybe 10 years that you've watched?
In the last 10 that's come out in the last 10 years or just
That's
in the
come
last
out
10?
in that's come out in the last 10 years.
All right, I'll give you two. Attack on Titan, when that came
Mm,
out, was just an instant. I don't care how long this is on air, I don't care how many episodes. I will watch this. I will read the manga. I will watch it in Japanese
mm,
only. I will learn Japanese to understand the stuff that I am missing in the translations from Japanese
mm,
to English to enjoy this anime. Anime is weird. That's just anime's
mm,
trope. It's weird. However, Attack on Titan is so weird of an anime to me, the
mm,
concept. And I'm like, I can't believe we've never seen like this specific thing before in anime. So I was hooked from beginning to end, and then my old age got to me, and I instantly like watched like everything that was out, and then I was waiting for season 3, and then I stopped being interested because for some reason I hit a certain age of being in my 30s, and everything I used to like was just like, hey, you don't like this no more. You're into all this stuff now. And I'm like, wait a minute. It literally happened overnight. Like, I don't like anime, I like photography, whatever. But yeah, that whole thing. But also more recently, My Hero Academia. I'm a
mm.
huge like X-Men nerd. I love like mutant powers and like talking about abilities and how they work. So My Hero Academia came into my life and I was like, this is just Japanese X-Men, but better than the actual X-Men that was
Oh, not you
Japanese.
saying it's better than X-Men. Oh,
No,
I
no,
might
no.
have
I'm not
to.
saying it's better than X-Men. I'm saying it's better than
Okay,
the X-Men anime that came out. That's what I'm
that's
saying. The
right. An
specific
X-Men
X-Men.
anime did come out. I was gonna say, I was like, oof, better than X-Men?
No, no, it's
Ooh.
not better than X-Men. It's enough, it's close enough, and it's better than what Japan gave us about anime X-Men. So that's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
That's all I'm
That
saying.
very true. Yeah, if you had a dream interview, who would it be with? And what would be like one of the questions you'd ask them?
I think I've actually already had my dream interview.
Mm,
And I probably haven't realized that is my dream interview, but only because of situations. Again, I'm a huge Power Ranger man.
mhm.
So you can imagine in 2019 when Karen Ashley and Nakia Burris decide to pick Atlanta for their first ever Ranger Stop and Pop convention, and they're all there. Everybody I grew up watching from the age of 6 to 36, they're there, and
Mm,
I'm 2 feet from them. Um, and then later, a couple years later on, being able to do press and being able to just interview the different casts from the press. I've done promotional videos with Karen Ashley. I've had interviews with Nakia Breeze, David Yost, Walter Jones. Well, not Walter Jones, but he's on the list. But like, I love Power Rangers. So like that con and being able to cover that con as press, despite its ups and downs, because there's definitely have been challenges with that, has been like something I never thought would happen. Even when I started this channel, which was after Ranger Stop and Pop came about. But if I have to say my dream interview right now, would be what I'm trying to get at MomoCon. Steve Bloom is going to be there. He's a iconic voice actor. If you don't know Steve Bloom, voice of
yep.
Spike Spiegel from Cowboy
Mm.
Bebop, Tom from Adult Swim, and probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other characters.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to get an exclusive interview with him where me and him are both on camera, and like I would just love to ask him a lot of the questions I got to ask Phil Lamar when I got to meet him at MomoCon
Hmm.
2022. just like digging his brain about his craft of being a voice actor. Stephen Bloom and a lot of voice actors like Phil Lamar, they have very distinctive voices. So it's
Right.
like, how do you, as an artist, as a voice actor, find those distinctions between the different characters' voices that you are the voice of? Because to us, a lot of them kind of blend in
Hmm.
and kind of sound the same because you just have a distinctive voice. Like you can hear Samuel L. Jackson's voice, know it's Samuel L. Jackson, even if you never see
Right.
Phil Lamar, you know it's him, even though he's playing any character in some cartoon or anime, you know Phil Lamar's voice because he has a very distinctive voice.
Hmm.
And so does Stephen Bloom. So I feel like for those voice actors, it's a lot more challenging for them to get into character of certain roles. So I would love to just pick his brain about his craft. And not only him, but I've got to done this with Phil Lamar. I've done this with Planet Power Rangers.
Hmm.
I would love to interview Johnny Young Bosch. Again, he's a voice actor of
Yes.
Ichigo. He is
Hmm.
the second Black Power Ranger. Um,
He's very, very sweet.
yes,
I'm
he
trying to
is.
remember. Yeah, I don't think I directly interviewed him. But I got to sit in on an interview with him, and I've seen him, I don't know how many times at this point, but I've talked to him several times. He's actually probably one of the most down to earth people in like the industry I've seen. Really sweet guy.
Yeah. But yeah,
Um,
it's so many people. Ryan Coogler, I would love to interview, and pick his brain. Chadwick Boseman, sadly, before he passed, I would have loved to interview him. Just especially if you're like someone who is black and in the nerd space as an occupation, but also you are a black nerd yourself, like a lot of the voice actors are. I would love to just spend hours talking to them and picking their brain, just much like how I sat here and talked to you, and just find every nugget of golden information in their brain about their craft, about their experiences, and their likes and dislikes as much as possible. It's kind of weird because the whole reason why I started my channel was to highlight black nerds, especially like cosplayers, and people who are actually doing things in the blurred space and being creative. I wanted to highlight them because black people who were nerds never really had a platform, and black people who are nerds don't really have a platform to speak. So I was like, I can just create it, and see what happens. And here we are,
yeah,
3, 4 years later, still doing it.
absolutely. Create the content you want to see.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I think that those are all the questions I have for you. Those are like really solid answers, by the way.
Thank you. I know I was ranting with my answers, but again, if you this felt like just getting to know each other type of conversation. So I really just enjoyed having you on. I would love to have you on again. Like we have so many topics that we talked about tonight that
Mhm.
any one of them could just be a topic for a whole podcast by itself. Misogyny within the blurred space, being accepted within the blurred space, of just the different stuff we like that is nerdy, and just our experiences being black and nerdy. So many different things we can talk about. I would love to have you on again if you would want to come on. I would definitely love to just talk to you about just how you approach press and working different conventions as press and this whole content creator thing. You are a fascinating person to talk to. I have gotten to learn so much. I'm sorry, I'm going on now and just
No,
ranting.
no, thank you. Please, please, no, don't gas me up. Stop. No, no, thank you, truly. No, this has been it's been a while since I've been on the podcast. It's man, let me tell you, producing content is so crazy. And like I said, I never really get the opportunity to like chit chat with myself. I'm typically hosting people on my own platform, like talking with them. So no, this was absolutely delightful. It was truly a pleasure speaking with you this evening.
Thank you, thank you. Why don't you tell my audience where they can find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, so it is Black and Culture, BLAQUE, the letter N, KULTURE everywhere. That's TikTok, which is my biggest platform. I make a lot of fun content over there. That's Instagram, that's Twitter. I don't like Twitter. I shit post on Twitter, so don't go there for looking for crazy content because that's all you get is gonna you're just gonna get crazy moments. Threads as well. YouTube, I am working on putting out some great YouTube content. I just filmed 3 YouTube videos back to back. So there will be a lot of content coming to YouTube, and also BN'K on tour has its own page. That's BN'K on tour. On I think on TikTok and IG. And then lastly, I because I'm supposed to be promoting this, I have a comic book out. Me and my dad, we wrote a comic book. It's called Birth of a Ball Shin. You can read it right now. Not for free. You can read the first 25 pages for free on Novatoons, and you can buy the comic for just $3. It is a 60-page manga, actually. It's not a comic book. It's a 60-page manga. It is a one-shot about our 2 main characters, Tamarick and Saxa on their first mission. You can read it for $3 on Novatoons. So that's Black and Culture everywhere. BN'K on tour. If you want to read my comic, it's called Birth of a Bastion on Novatoons. My comic book company is called It's OA Comics or Oracle's Architect. You can do that now, and I'm sure somewhere in this video there will be links to everything so you can see it there. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm a little bit of everywhere.
There will definitely be links to everything you just said, and I feel so bad because like I clearly didn't do my due diligence and know that you already had a comic out that I could just go and read because we would have just talked about that. So we're gonna go ahead schedule you for next Monday same time so we can talk about that because that's got to be done. All right, you cool with that? Next Monday same time.
Yes, what? Listen, schedule already cleared.
All right, cool. Bet. All right, I got you. But thank you so much for coming on. This has been Blerdkast. I've enjoyed my interview with Ty from Black and Culture. I cannot believe I have like enjoyed this conversation so much. Just thank you so much for coming on. But everybody, this has been Blerdkast. You can find Blerdkast everywhere you listen to your podcast on Spotify, on Anchor. That is now also Spotify. I have to remember that because like old script. Um, Apple Music, Kindle, Amazon Music, everywhere you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube. You can follow Blerdography on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, now known as this was a long one, man. 6 hours of
Poor
interview.
thing. Poor thing. I am so sorry.
No, it's fine because like I work overnight, so like when I'm off, I'm off.
Oh
I have
wow.
nothing, no time, but to record. So I try to get as many in as I can. Whew. And yeah,
Man,
I forget like creating content is not as easy as people make it look.
man, bless your soul. I did that. I did overnight for 4 or 5 years. I did overnight work. Can't do it no more. That's why I'm an insomniac now. Man,
Mm.
bless your heart. Bless your heart.
I mean, I'm
But
gonna be honest, I
absolutely.
love it though. I love it. I don't want to because the sun, I'm a vampire. The sun is my weakness.